Welcome. This is the Punk CX podcast. My name is Adrian Swinscoe, and I'm an advisor, best-selling author, Forbes contributor, and general explorer of the service and experience space. The thing I'm really interested in is how do we create organizations that produce better outcomes for both their customers and their people. This podcast has been running since January 2011, and so we have a big archive to explore. Check out the archive at adrianswinscoe.com. That's enough from me. Let's get into the interview. So welcome to the next edition of the Punk CX podcast. With me today, I have Gaurav Passi, who is the CEO at Zingly. Hey, Gaurav, how are you doing?
Hey, Adrian, how goes?
Very well. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Can't complain. Beautiful day.
Excellent. Well, it is here too, up in Edinburgh. It's a very bright, sunny day. Beautiful. So, Gaurav, for the benefit of our listeners and the people that maybe read the highlights and things, can you give us a bit of a thumbnail sketch on you and the work that you do?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, first of all, I'm a father of just two stunning daughters. One graduated from college, the other one's in college, just stunning girls. I happen to be in customer experience space for pretty much 25 years. Mm-hmm. Fascinated by the space and sector, fascinated how it's gone from, prem to cloud, cloud to digital to now, something called AI, sarcasm intended.
Why is that? Really? Wow, that's a new thing.
Yeah. But I think being in the sector and space for a long time and started my career in CRM, which is the customer relationship management, and then moved to the communication side, the engagement side, and the combination of the two is just a stunning world that is out there.
Excellent. Now, one of the reasons that we wanted, or rather I wanted to have a chat to you on the podcast was I know that you recently conducted some research and the research found, which I thought was fascinating, was that 71% of consumers find customer service interactions as stressful or more stressful than their original problem. And I thought, okay, tell me about that. Tell me about the research and what's going on with all that.
Sometimes I feel like there's certain researchers that when they come out with data and you look at the data and you're like, duh, I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious because everybody, I mean, every listener can connect with their own life of like, hey, what happens when they pick up the phone, call an 800 number, wanting to talk to a brand, whether it's about changing a ticket, talking to a bank, talking to a healthcare company, talking to a retailer because you wanted to buy something or return something. I mean, it's becoming obvious that it's painful. It's becoming obvious that there's a massive opportunity out there. It's becoming obvious that the consumers are now kings and queens. So the consumers are kings and queens, then the whole world has to flip and serve to them. And the brands have to serve to them. So I think the research that was conducted through a national survey of the US consumers was really to better understand the emotional toll of customer service experience today. And what we found is that, to your point, 71% of consumers said dealing with customer service is just as or more stressful than the original problem that they were contacting. It's almost like you want to change a ticket, you're stuck in an airport. And you just want to change a different flight, the flight, the issue that you're dealing with, calling the customer service is more painful than that. And I'm sure everybody can relate to it. And I think this basically reveals that most people, customer support is not solving the problem or is not helping in their stress. It's adding to it. Long hold times, disconnected channels. How many times have you all repeated ourselves or the same thing, pushed to, let me transfer your call to X, Y, and Z. It just invalidates many times the intuitiveness of what the consumer demands at the point. And that's where the world has been. So survey was just basically pointing out to what's the obvious problem out there.
Yeah, no, it reminds me of a piece of research that I saw from Pegasystems a number of years ago, which frighteningly found that about 10% of the people that they had surveyed said that the customer service that they had received, I think this is right, made them cry. And it just sort of speaks to the reality of people not getting the right sort of service or the right sort of treatment, or are just almost like smashing up against these processes. And it's a bit like it creates stress, creates grief, emotional distress, and sometimes it even leads to people crying. And you just think that's just not acceptable.
It is not. I mean, as many pictures that we will see if you go search on Google on customer service and consumer reaction to it, you will see most consumer reaction pulling their hair, shouting on the phone. I mean, it's evident of where things have been, and it's equally evident where things need to go as a result.
Yeah, but the other thing that you also kind of said, we were talking before in the setup process of the podcast, and you also told me that you think that, and you mentioned the AI sort of like kind of secret sauce that many people, the way that many people are seeing it. That you said that one of the problems is that you think that companies are hiding behind AI and claiming innovation, and that's creating what you're calling this great CX paradox, i.e., the more that companies spend on their shiny new technology, particularly AI kind of tools, the more that they're alienating their customers. So tell me about that sort of that paradoxical situation, and what should brands be doing instead?
I think you nailed it right on the head, Adrian. I think anytime a new innovation kicks in, it becomes a mad rush to get to it,
Mm-hmm.
without really stepping back and understanding what is that we really need to solve.
Right.
Whether it's digital, whether it's AI, whether it's the next thing that's going to come out, these are all great tools to help facilitate a cause. And the cause in this case is about a great customer experience.
Mm-hmm.
So if you back up, I would say every brand should literally start thinking about what is that top experience I want to provide to a single consumer that I have, one single consumer. If I have 100 million consumers, what is that I want to do best for one of them? If
Mm-hmm.
they happen to walk in my store, if they happen to call me, if I'm a healthcare company, if I'm a airlines, like one consumer pick that and say, what is that stunning experience I can provide? Um, Now, the tools like AI in my mind is about scale. Can
Mm-hmm.
you take that one experience that is the ideal, the most fascinating experience you can think of to that one consumer and leverage AI to scale it to 100 million? Now
Right.
talking something because now
Mm-hmm.
you're actually leveraging AI to scale an experience you are fascinated about and really want to provide to every single consumer you have. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's how brands need to think. That's how they need to get away from putting lipstick on the pig. Not start thinking about, hey, how do I take Gen AI and some chatbots and some wrappers and start, somehow answering customers. And one of the things I worry about the most when something like this happens, everybody starts running towards costs because
Mm-hmm.
businesses understand that very easily. Board understands that very easily. So there's a KPI called containment that goes
Mm-hmm.
around in the industry quite a bit. Um, it's almost like, whether it's AI or, the back in the day IVRs, it's a similar thing. People who are stuck in those IVRs, pressing one for this and pressing two for this, they were contained. In other words, they were not talking to a human being on the other side, and you were saving some cost and money. But was that real containment or was it a false containment? By that, I mean, was the customer really happy being hung
Mm-hmm.
up and stuck on that IVR tree, or were they frustrated? If they're
Mm-hmm.
frustrated, then it's a false containment. So it's really about making sure that the customer has a question and you're able to provide customer's question with the fastest answer, the most
Mm-hmm.
accurate answer, and the safest answer. Safest
Mm-hmm.
being not hallucinating, right?
Yeah.
And that on top is about not only giving a customer a single question, but building a journey for them so that next time when they have a question, they have no fear. They reach out to you immediately, whether it's middle of the night or early morning or whenever. They're like, man, this is what I want to be doing with this brand because they've made it super easy for me. So I think that's
Mm-hmm.
where I think the future is going to go. It's more about taking a step back and really understanding what kind of experience is needed to be provided, even if it's for one single customer that I have, and how can I leverage technologies like AI to scale that experience.
You kind of talk about containment, and it makes me think about language, and it makes me think about how we use language. And I'm a sort of fan of the work of people like, Noam Chomsky, who's a linguistic philosopher, and how he talks about how our language is our map of the world and how we understand and see it. And if I think about words like containment and deflection and wallet share and all these type of things, it makes me ask the questions like, is that very customer centric? And it's kind of like in its intent, or is that very process or organizational or business centric? And I think it's important to reflect on some of these things, because how we describe them informs how we think about them and how we prioritize sort of things. And so you alluded to some of the things, the way that you talk about it. I mean, also, I know that you're trying to take a very different sort of approach to solving some of these challenges at Zingly, based on the experience that you've had over multiple different enterprises and years. And this approach involves rooms, and I quite like that idea, because my ultimate sort of vision of what the best service would be, for example, imagine you've got a number of different people sitting around a table that represent all the different sort of, and appropriate departments in an organization, and there's one phone in the middle of the table, and the phone rings and somebody picks it up and goes, "Hi, Gaurav, you're speaking to Adrian. How can I help you?" And you say blah blah blah, and then I just look around the table and I pass it to the other kind of person and go, "It's for you." And it's as simple as that. And it's because it's in a room, and it's a room focused on the customer and pushing all of the resources and all the expertise and all the knowledge to the front to meet the customer at the point of demand. And that's why I quite like this idea about rooms. So I wonder if you could tell me a little bit more about how you're approaching some of these challenges, and what are this room stuff, and how does that work with all these different systems that we see? Because I think the other kind of bigger problem with the whole service and experience space is this almost like Frankenstack that gets created, and everybody's trying to build all these different things and they don't talk to each other. So I'd be interested to understand how you're trying to solve for all of those different kind of problems.
Right. We in Zingly are a crew of people who are, I'd call ourselves industry insiders in some ways, because being in the CX industry for all our lives. And one of the unique things about the Zingly team has been that most of us originated from the CRM background, like I told in my introduction.
Mm-hmm.
And then we happened to get into the CCaaS, the call center, contact center space.
Mm-hmm.
What we realize, Adrian, is that the CRM space and the call center technology space has been totally separated for all these decades. The CRM is basically a historical data of a customer, and that historical data is stored whether in shape and form of a case or an opportunity or a lead, but it's a historical information.
Yeah.
And call center technologies are what we call a system of engagement, which is a real-time conversation going on with the customer, whether on the phone or any other channel. And just the example that you gave, Adrian, like somebody calls you and you pick up the phone and you talk to that person. Literally, when you walk the call centers, as you know, and you see these call center agents, when they're taking those phone calls and they're talking to a customer, they're taking all this conversation for 20 minutes, and then they will eventually turn to a CRM, type the notes for a minute and a half, 90 seconds on whatever they understood in that call. And after they type the notes, automatically the next call will be served to them. So in essence, what you see from here is that the world of CRM and the world of contact center, call center has always been separated.
Hmm.
So we were amazed by that, and we were like, no, that's not the right thing, and we need to start thinking differently. So that was the first problem we wanted to solve. And the second thing we wanted to solve was we all have heard the word omni-channel.
Hmm.
So the same example, somebody who makes a phone call and talks to a agent, maybe an hours into it, goes on a chat, or later on, goes on a video. All this data and all this context is very separated on those channels. Okay.
Hmm.
So these were phone call to digital channels. In many ways, AI is a new channel, right?
Hmm.
So the reality is that omni-channel was a myth. It was just a marketing term that vendors used. And the reason is because the context did not stay in one single place. If your
Sure.
customer chose to go from voice call to video to chat to a digital platform, the context just, evaporated.
Hmm.
And that has been a problem. And on top, CRM, CCaaS being separated is an issue. So
Hmm.
I'm talking to you on a phone, my data is sitting on a case, but next time when I call you on a video, the data is now missing. Um, so we backed and said, what's the best way if the consumer is the king and queen? And if you have to serve the consumer at the end of the day, what's the best way to serve the consumer or the
Hmm.
customer, right? And we felt like the best way to serve a consumer is if somehow we can bring the data, the generative AI, and humans all together in a single place.
Hmm.
And that single place has to be the most easiest, simplest way for a customer consumer to engage with on their own terms whenever they want.
Hmm.
And that's what Zingly Rooms are all about. It combined the data, the Gen AI, and the humans all together, where a consumer can come in. It's a collaborative, centralized hub. Think of this as CX hubs that
Hmm.
are customer facing. They can come in middle of the night. They can come in the morning. They can, put media files, make payments in it. They can do DocuSigns in it. They can do whatever they want in it. And
But it exists in perpetuity,
it does.
perpetuity as well.
It exists in perpetuity. It is persistent. It never disappears. You can move from your phone device to a computer to a phone call. It doesn't really matter. It's there for you.
So
And
it's basically you're creating a channel, regardless of the modality, for the customer.
yeah, a single
So
channel
it's basically
configured.
a single channel, a pipe between the customer and the brand that they're dealing with.
Right.
And
So
that exists in perpetuity.
I think you said it better than I could have it in so many words. It's one, rather than having multi-channel or the myth of omni-channel, Room is one single channel designed for a consumer and helps them engage the way they want to engage, totally persistent. And whether it's AI or whether it's a human, and also, by the way, our machine has something called relationship AI, which I think is the most stunning part of a technology,
Hmm.
which really constantly understands when to bring a human in the loop and if to bring a human in the loop.
Okay.
There's certain things that always need a human in the loop, right?
Yeah.
So that I think makes it a very different technology.
Well, that's fascinating. I mean, but I mean, for people that are listening, I mean, that might feel like, oh, that's interesting. It might be feel a little bit abstract because it's different, right? It's like, well, it's not multi-channel, it's not omni-channel, it's not any one channel. It's like all channels, but in one channel. Ah, how does that how does that work? I mean, so I wonder, tell me a couple of stories about people that you've worked with that are leveraging this approach and how it works and what problem they're sort of actually kind of the problems they've been facing and what you're helping them solve for and the sort of if you can help you understand the sort of benefits they're getting out of it, just so we can bring this approach to life, if you
Right,
can.
right. I mean, we are working with customers who are Fortune 500 customers and financial industry world. We are working with credit unions, like very large ones. We're working with healthcare companies,
Hmm.
and think about these sectors that I just talked about. Very highly regulated sectors. Um, Putting anything in front of a customer in an AI, one would imagine like in such a regulated market, how does it work? Because you're concerned about being hallucinating. But they're working with a company like Zingly from the get-go because they have really figured out that strategy of what I talked about earlier. Like, what is that one single stunning experience I want to provide to a customer?
Mm-hmm.
And if I can provide that stunning experience to a customer, how can I take it to multiples of those? So
Mm.
one of our customers leverages, it's like a Fortune 100, large financial institution,
Mm-hmm.
leverages our technology for deposits with their
Okay.
with their clients. Before Zingly, they had no after hours or very poor after hours. With Zingly, the after hours completely changed.
Mm-hmm.
Today, 35% of their new deposits or new opportunities are coming through Zingly rooms. Because,
Right.
in the evening when somebody comes home, they open up their phone and they go to their website, Zingly's right there, and they start engaging. And they don't need a, business process outsourcer somewhere in Philippines or India helping them out. Zingly technology is helping them out without any resources out there, right?
Right.
And the AI is there, which tells you it's a safe AI because it's a very highly regulated sector and they already have
Mm-hmm.
implemented. We have healthcare companies, you jump on their website and you start wanting to ask, hey, how do I schedule this thing? Because I need to get back to a cardiac thing or I need to be talking to somebody in XYZ department. It really understands who you are, why you're coming in, and as at the end result, whether it's a patient or a consumer on the other side, or a customer of a large bank, it gives them a very consistent, persistent feel that this is designed for me and I can
Mm-hmm.
engage anytime I want. And that has made a very massive change for these companies. One of our customers, they have added, I have never seen that kind of ROI before, so I'm taking a pause there, but they've added $250 million last year on our platform, a new
Wow.
channel with new deposits.
Wow.
I've been in the sector for 25 years. I've never seen that kind of return before. But they not only added $250 million, you can imagine with AI, how much cost are they saving? Before
Sure.
Singly, they were spending about, at least at an average, $10 per voice call coming to the call center.
Mm-hmm.
And highest amount of, expense on that was the human capital.
Mm-hmm.
Today, every human contact, customer contact, is costing them 50 cents.
Mm-hmm.
So you cannot even compare that with taking your call centers to Philippines or India and trying to, half your expense. The game has changed totally for them. The
Yeah.
scale has changed. And lastly, not only you are making money, not only you're saving money, to me as a CX guy, the most important thing is, has your CSAT and NPS gone up?
Mm-hmm.
Because if it is not, then no matter what technology and how much we want to pat our own backs, then it's all about containment, not resolution.
Yeah.
And we were surprised to see that in most of our customers, the CSAT's also going up. It would like, multiple points. So it
Nice.
tells you customers are happy. We can see their sentiment in our technology, much like Uber, where you can see your
Mm-hmm.
rating and you can see the driver's rating. In our technology, a customer can always see their rating and they can always see like, hey, what I feel for you as a brand, we call it Zing Feel. So for every bank, every healthcare, it's called Zing Feel. Like I am telling you how I feel about you. And
Right.
that's based on NLP, that's based on AI technology. Customers can change it. So it's really empowered the customers. And then that's why you see this dynamic shift to what a right technology can do.
I mean, I remember seeing like a demo, and it was to do with somebody. I think they were on a financial services institution, and they were applying for a car loan or
Yep.
something. Although they were looking for a car loan, and how it was all architected and orchestrated to go through that. And so you're leveraging the technology to facilitate the application process. He pulls in because you're logged in, as it were, so it's got access to all of your records, and then it can pull credit scores and give you a kind of pre-approval, and then it pre-fills out the form. But if there's any nuance, then it potentially gets escalated or helps you set an appointment with somebody there where you need to speak to them. And so it I guess it is working in that sort of really asynchronous kind of way as well. And so I was really impressed by it. It's that idea of just pulling everything sort of together, and having that maybe also last in perpetuity. But the thing I wanted to understand was, um, how do customers save or know where to go back to, as it were, if they want to work in that asynchronous kind of like way? Because to get the full fat version of this, you have to be logged in, right? So somebody has to know who you are, so they can access all your data and all your records. But how does somebody go back to the place, as it were? How do you remember that? Because customers are notoriously bad for forgetting kind of where links are, where to going to go to, right? So how do you make that simple for people?
Right. So in this age and form, everybody's got a phone in their hands. It's glued to us, integrated to a human being now. So we are very much on their phones and on their devices. We notify them through text, SMS.
Right.
The applications we are giving them in-app messages. So it's very human-centered design. It's very much
Okay.
integrated to a human being, much like an iPhone is. It's very much integrated to a human being, and it brings that I call them brand, but think about businesses. It integrates businesses in customers' lives. If I have a bank, it's now integrated that bank into my daily life because it made it very, very easy for me to engage with you inside your application, through notification, through my SMS, through my emails. It brings every single thing together, and it starts from where I left. So
Right.
it makes a difference. Yes, it's asynchronous, Adrian, to your point, but on your own time or on your own fingers, you can immediately go from asynchronous to synchronous. You can
Right.
put this into a video call. You can run this into a phone call. I always think there are 5 things that are most important to any customer. One is, can you understand my problem immediately? Right? Can you tell me what is my wait time before you're going to answer my question? Meaning, you understand my question / problem. Tell me how long will it take for me to get the answer back. I want to make sure, thirdly, the answer is accurate and I can believe in it. Fourthly, you're always understanding what my sentiment is, how I am feeling about this engagement. And lastly, you are not containing me and you're giving me the powers and you're empowering me to engage with you in any channel I please to, right? And I can get back to it anytime I want. And that's what Zingly Rooms do. They give you all these 5 things together at the same time. And that's what makes these consumers so empowered. And that's why you saw that $250 million result with that customer. And their world has changed.
Nice. I mean, it's fascinating. I mean, also then, final question for me is that, and so how does this exist within the existing, pardon the existing sort of word use, ecosystem? I mean, it's not like a rip and replace. Oh, you have to get rid of all that and do something different. Does it sit above and just, as you say, provides a wrapper and pulls all the things together? How does that work? Because a lot of people will be going like, "Oh, that sounds great, but I've got this, and I'm stuck with this because I've just signed an agreement that's going to have 3 years in length and things." And how do I make that work?
We believe in, can we innovate our customers without disrupting their investments in ecosystem that they have created?
Right.
It takes a lot to build those technology stack. And can you leverage the technology stack without putting a lipstick on the pig? Can you totally revolutionize on top? So every single entry point, Zingly is the front end of that entry point now. So it's the experience that the end consumer gets, but it's fully integrated to your technology stack. So let's use the most basic example. Somebody picks up the phone and calls the call center 800 number. So rather than the traditional IVR system, now you will be interfacing with Zingly's Gen AI based system. Okay?
Right.
And it's engaging with you. Hey, Adrian, how can I help you today? And I'm interested in a car loan. Sure. What kind of car are you looking for? So you will be feeling like, oh, this is like such a human way of interacting with someone, that technologies, that voice is understanding me. It's not containing me. And your engagement will change immediately. If you happen to be on their website, you're not even signed up on their website, you will see Zingly right there on the website, and the design construct that we have provided is almost like a Google search bar that you can
Mm-hmm.
come in and ask any question, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you signed up, you will see Zingly Rooms right there when you signed up. You will go to your app, it will be right there. If you open up a Zingly Room and your problem is customer service, you will see a CRM case in the background. It's really
Mm-hmm.
integrated to your CCaaS call center platforms as well. It's
Right.
integrated to your backend technologies. It's integrated to your core banking. It's integrated to
Mm-hmm.
your payment systems. So for any technology to be operating with the enterprises, we staunchly believe that no great technology can survive on an island of its own. It
Mm-hmm.
must know the art of integrating with other technology stack. And we in Zingly so staunchly believe in it that we build the system grounds up, designed like that, that whether
Mm-hmm.
it's old technologies, whether it's the latest and greatest ones, Zingly can integrate with anything because our purpose is to serve the end customer. And we believe by serving the end customer, being the front end for them, we will change the market for our customers, the businesses, the brands, which the examples I've given you, not only the revenues are shifting, the costs are dropping dramatically, but the MPSs are going up. So that's how innovation without disruption comes.
Awesome. No, I just wanted to clarify that because a lot of times I have people that I talk to, and they have a great new idea and a great new approach, and you go like, but it's going to require it's like a displacement sort of like strategy, and you're like going, no, we can bring all this together. It's like an orchestration front end sort of like kind of piece, which is great. And so I think it's a really interesting approach, and thank you for sharing that. And some of the results I think are, they speaks for themselves. And as you say, it's very human centered in its design in terms of how it combines the best of new technology and automation, but also that you can integrate into that sort of live human kind of contact as and when is appropriate across numbers of different channels, but it's all in the one space. And it can operate in both a synchronous and also synchronous kind of way, but it also exists, that record of those conversations exists in perpetuity as well. So the context is always there, and you don't actually have to pull it from another system because it just sits in that that room space. So I think it's a really splendid idea, and as you say, it's very human centric, very customer centric. I think in its design. So thank you for sharing that. So, one final question: anything else we should know, Gaurav, before I ask you some wrap up questions, some quick fire wrap up questions that we should know? So anything else we should know about Zingly before we kind of move on?
Zingly is built for consumers, like you said. Come check us out on LinkedIn. Come check us out on our website. Talk to our team. Talk to our customers. See how the world is changing, one customer at a time. So we live in a fascinating world. So yeah, that's what I would say about Zingly. The world has shifted. Use AI very wisely. Don't fall in the trap of fake AI.
Mm-hmm.
You just be very, very thoughtful of what the experience you want to provide. These are tools,
Mm-hmm.
and start with the experience that you have in mind for your customers, and then leverage the tools. That's kind of my biggest guidance and help for anybody listening to this.
Perfect. Well, I think you might have just answered my next kind of quick fire question, which was I always like to ask people to leverage their experience and to boil everything down and provide their sort of best advice. And the way I do that, and the way I've been doing it sort of late, is to ask them to complete this sentence. And the sentence is, if you want to improve your customer or employee experience, Gaurav says do this. ... Complete that sentence. Over to you, sir.
Think about the end customer. That's the only way that you can change the experience. Think about the end customer. Think about your consumer. Think about a single consumer again. Think about the most fascinating experience you can provide to that single consumer and build from there. Then figure out, how do I scale it to everybody? That's how you do it.
Awesome. Thank you. Now, my second question, and it would be remiss of me if I didn't ask a punk related question, given this is a Punk CX podcast. And so what I'd like to know is, what company or brand do you think takes a punk approach to customer experience, and why?
Coffee shops. I'm not going to give you a single brand.
Okay.
You know, anybody can make a simple, easy coffee at home. The
Hmm.
reason we stand in long lines and go to these mom pop shop coffee shops is because for that $4.50 to $5, they make you feel like a queen and a king. Because
Mm.
you can design your coffee the way you want. You don't like your coffee, you go back, you change it. It is stunning. You can sit down, you can open up your laptop, you can work there. You're not paying hundreds of dollars to work there. It just has figured out the art of how to make the end consumers happy, one consumer at a time. And to me, I get fascinated by these great mom pop coffee shops. On they have really figured out the consumer experience so beautifully.
Awesome.
If I take the larger brands, I mean, think about companies like Patagonia's, think about companies like Transamerica. Even if you're dealing with banking, there's like a lot of names out there who completely shifted their mindset on consumer experience. Taking
Awesome.
coffee shops.
Awesome. Big shout out to all the independent coffee shops out there.
Yeah.
Um, and now one final question from me, and just before we wrap up. And so the world is strange, weird, tumultuous, kind of changing right now. And I find myself trying not to doom scroll in the morning over my first cup of coffee, which is homemade. And so I'd like to end on a positive note or a good news story. So, Gaurav, can you tell me what's been the most interesting, positive, or exciting thing that you've seen in the last week?
Huh. Um, I was happened to be at my daughter's college. It's called Claremont McKenna College in Southern California.
Mm-hmm.
And just walking there, and I bumped into this, young girl. She was a sophomore, and I was talking to her. Comes from a very humble background, uh,
Mm-hmm.
somewhere in Africa. And I was talking to her, and super intelligent girl, and she was telling me the story how her entire education is funded, uh, not only by Claremont McKenna, but by also another company that funded her,
Mm-hmm.
and how now she's interning with them, and how that has totally changed her life. So sometimes, we all look for like big stories, but to me, it's just a regular girl, a sophomore in college, walking on the campus, sharing that kind of story and how it has totally changed her life, and what a educational institution has done to help in that, what a particular company did to help in that. I think goes in a long way. You can start, going further with what Harvard Tuition is doing now, doing free for families. You can talk about Harley Davidson stories that have recently come out in the last week. There are many of those, but there's all this goodness out there. We just need to kind of open our eyes and see what that goodness is. And I think goodness is the most infectious thing in the world. We pay attention, it becomes infectious, and then we start, giving it back. It's just a beautiful world.
Perfect. Lovely story. Can you remember the name of the young lady?
I do.
Can you tell me too? Because even if she ends up kind of like being a listener, we can give her a big shout out.
Yeah, yeah. Her name is Anna, but yeah, Anna was great.
So
She's
big shout out to Anna, and all the very best to you in your studies and your future adventures.
lovely. Well said.
Thank you. Well, Gareth, thank you so much for sharing that story with me. That's great. I mean, it's always nice to end on a bit of a high note. And thank you for telling me a bit more about your story and sharing your perspective, and also telling me what you're up to at Zingly and how rooms are making a difference. And that's been super interesting and great. So thank you so much.
Adrian, thank you so much. I enjoyed every single bit of it. I enjoyed the last question. Ending with goodness is such a beautiful thing. Thank you.
Wow, what a great interview. I hope you enjoyed it. I know I did. Find out more about me and the work that I do at adrianswinsco.com. Do leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And if you have any comments, feedback, or questions about the podcast, then feel free to send me a message to podcast@adrianswinsco.com. Do tune in again. Thanks very much.